So back in 2022, when Polygon was at the peak of adoption, it is like getting, like, as you guys know, all the big brands, big institutions, everybody is launching on Polygon, right, in 2022. And that's the time, like, I always like keep reevaluating my end goal, my mission. And my mission has always been that if this is the new internet that is being created, which is basically an internet which is more trustless, has more individual freedom, has more property rights natively on internet, how can I do something which makes Polygon a part of this new internet that is being created in a more sustainable way? That means that if this internet sustains for, or if this internet gets created in next 10, 15 years, 20 years, how can I make sure that Polygon is a part of that internet? And that's when I was very clear that the Polygon POS or the individual chains or what we call block space selling business is actually, it's good to do for some applications, for some level of scale, but it cannot scale to the scale of internet. And that's where we started pivoting slowly into this multi-chain ecosystem. And our product Ag Layer, many of you guys have product, and that Ag Layer is Polygon now, right? And I'm going to talk about that, why I feel that this is the right direction for Polygon. And obviously, nobody can see the future. If it works out, great. Polygon would be great. If it doesn't work out, Polygon might not work out. But I'm absolutely fine with that. Like, and I'm relentless on that goal that either Polygon becomes what, we had the original mission, I had the original mission of Polygon becoming, or it goes to zero. That's perfectly fine. Nothing in the middle is acceptable. And this Ag Layer is that attempt to that. And I'll walk you through that, why I feel so. So basically a quick and dirty history of the internet, right? Like if you go back, let's say in 1985 or early 90s, there were multiple networks, and they were all having similar kind of things that we see today, like multiple blockchains, multiple bridges towards them. It was super hard to use internet. You have to have a dial-up connection, and all those kind of things that you see with the blockchains today. And they were disconnected, hard to communicate. And this was the internet of data, internet of information. The current internet that we call Web 2 is the internet of information. And Web 3 is essentially the internet of value. And you can see that, I mean, if you have studied around that time or heard from people, it was very hard for information to move around from one network to another. Similar kind of thing we see with value in the current, the value internet, that is Web 3. And then came along TCP/IP, which is basically the backbone of internet today. And this is one very interesting, graphic that everybody should see. A16Z, actually, Ali Yaya actually posted a very good, blog post on that. And that was basically around the narrow waist of internet. And that narrow waist of internet is TCP/IP. You can see on top of that, you have games, chat, video, email, web, everything. And below that, you have Wi-Fi, you have broadband, you are connected to your mobile cellular network, people connect with Ethernet and so many different kind of mechanisms. But when you join that, you join one single internet. You don't join that you are on the internet of India, or you are on the internet of Google. You are not joining the Google. You can't have access to the Facebook applications, which is the situation with Web3 today. So what are the three main problems in this context for Web3? Like, most important is the fragmentation. Like, as you can already see that, and we have so many of these Twitter posts from people where they look at their wallet and they have one ETH, but actually they have that ETH on 5 different chains, right? And the user experience is extremely bad because you want to use that one ETH on one particular chain, but it is on 5 different chains and you have to pay gas fees on 5 different chains and so many problems. Scalability, even though in the last 2-3 years, many blockchains have launched, and now the scalability is somewhat solved, but it's still not solved to a place like, let's say, In India, somebody like, let's say Reliance Jio wanted to launch something. Do they have any blockchain which can handle the scale of that? Or Instagram or Facebook wanted to launch the NFTs again. Do they have the scalability to launch and have those many transactions today? Probably not. And obviously, security is also a very big issue, and UX, it also leads to, all of these things lead to a very bad UX also. So this fragmented liquidity, I already told you that, this liquidity is fragmented across different chains. Second issue is like scalability. Most of the bigger, like for example, NASDAQ, people say that, we want to build NASDAQ, let's say for example, Solana's goal is to build NASDAQ on-chain. But NASDAQ alone, only for NASDAQ, dedicated capacity is 250K TPS, right? And whereas for a single state blockchain, even if somebody is able to reach 100,000 TPS, that 100,000 TPS is shared across multiple applications. That doesn't work at that scale when you want the whole world to come to Web3. Another, challenge is security. You have like each of the chains have their own, security mechanisms, and it's very hard when you are moving money around that which chains security you can trust, and how can you safely move your funds around. We know so many of these bridge hacks have happened, which led to probably billions of dollars. I think yesterday only there was this thing like for bridges alone, people have lost around $1.6 billion in last 1 year itself. User experience, again, so many wallets, so many of these things. So what are the solutions for this? And one of that solution that we are also working, and I feel that the architecture like this is probably going to be the end game. Whether Polygon ends up building that or somebody else ends up building that, that's a different thing. But if Web3 scales to the scale of internet, something like this will look as the end game of this, right? And we have also seen like monolithic blockchains, like individual blockchains, like many, like Solana is there, Aptos is there, Sui, there are multiple blockchains. Monad is upcoming, really amazing projects, all of them. And they are trying to get TPS, as high TPS as possible. Like I think, Solana is now doing like probably 800 TPS effective, and I think peak could be in few thousands. Same is with most of the other chains also. And even if like some of these chains are actually, constantly working on more and more advancements, and they will probably, I have no doubt that they will be able to reach 10,000 TPS sustainably, and probably some of them can have max TPS as like 100,000. Like that can easily happen. But problem is that again that TPS is dedicated for a shared blockchain, and hundreds of applications are building on that. And ask any significant business like Flipkart, like Zomato or Swiggy and all that, if they want to do anything on blockchains, they are going to need that kind of capacity only for their own, not like a shared capacity where gas fees can go up and down. So so what was the solution to this that was proposed was modular blockchains. Like that means each application can have its own blockchain. You have your own dedicated capacity. You can do millions of TPS daily, and then your scalability issues can be solved to some extent. But problem is that leads to fragmentation, right? Which I showed that so many blockchains are there. Your assets are roaming around various different blockchains and all that. So how do you solve for this, both scalability and the fragmentation of liquidity? And that is the solution we proposed and we are building on, is the solution we called is aggregation. And what is Ag layer? Ag layer is a neutral cross-chain settlement layer which allows the liquidity to move from one chain to another in a very safe manner. Like safety is the most important factor for that. And it also provides unified liquidity. There are smart engineering tricks done there, so that when you are moving an asset A from chain A to chain B, you don't have to rely on that chain B has the liquidity of the representative token of that particular token, and then you transfer. There is a bridge which is maintaining liquidity on both sides. It's costing you something. The Ag layer avoids all of that. So a cross-chain settlement layer, fast settlement layer, because the hard settlement you get on Ethereum also today, but fast cross-chain settlement layer which provides safe interoperability as well as enables the chains to achieve infinite scale. And how does it look like? So you have this basically the Ag layer chain. Ag layer, we call it relayer layer. It's not even a chain. You don't do transactions on Ag layer. It's a pure relayer layer on which multiple of these chains are connected. They get aggregated both in terms of liquidity as well as in terms of their ZK proofs, and the proofs is submitted onto the Ethereum. Now, the ZK proofs, there are few teams that are already doing like full ZK proofs, which are very costly to create today. So what we have also done on that is we have separated the proofs to two levels. One are liquidity proofs, that means the asset proofs. So if you are a startup and you want to launch a ZK chain, you probably don't want to spend $2 million or $1 million proving the transactions on the chain, right? Assuming you have transactions. So initially as a startup, you would want to go with simply what we call pessimistic proofs. And the pessimistic proofs are where you simply take a proof of your ledger and then you post onto the Ag layer, and then Ag layer has a global ledger. We call it like local exit routes and global exit route. So the GER, which is the global exit route, is essentially a combined ledger of everything. Assume like in India, a lot of your grocery store, your Reliance Fresh or whatever big bazaars, they all have their own ledgers. Like assume in the analogy, they will be separate chains, and they all connect together in one single large ledger, which would be, let's say, RBI, which is basically issuing the currency and all that. In a very vague analogy I'm trying to give. Or like all this interbank connection, which is like all the banks actually share their global ledgers with the RBI, right? And that is aggregated at the national level. So Ag layer is basically that aggregated ledger across all of these chains. And it has different components, pessimistic proofs, as I said. Then there is like full execution proof. So some people might also ask, like the technical people here, that what is the difference between pessimistic proof and full proof, like the execution proof? So pessimistic proof essentially only protects other chains from your chains going rogue. Like for example, if you have $100,000 USD on your chain, you cannot withdraw more than 100,000 from the chain. But that 100,000 can be with 10 different customers, and you might try to steal it, and you may steal it with only pessimistic proof, right? If you want to provide your users full guarantees, then you have to write the execution proofs, which is actually what people colloquially call ZK proof, which are full execution proofs on your chain. But we provide how we have built is that for startups, it's too costly for them, at least now. Maybe in 2 years the situation will change, but right now it's too costly for them to have ZK proofs from day zero. So you start with pessimistic proof. As your chain grows, as the value logged in your chain grows to millions of dollars, your community is going to demand that, we don't trust you custodying this $1 million in the bridge or $100 million in the bridge. You should have full execution proofs. And we can see as of now, like there are multiple chains which don't have the full proofs, but people are trusting them with billions of dollars. I mean, of course, with some very big people, but even the smaller scale chains, it's okay to scale to like, let's say 10 to $50 million, $100 million, if you have a reputed team and reputed customers, and eventually you have to go to the full trustlessness. That is the proof aggregation. And then the unified bridge I was talking about is that bridge which unites the liquidity. As I said, that each token on the Ag layer bridge, let's say there are 100 chains connected, each token has a representation on all the chains. And when you are moving a token from chain A to chain, let's say B, that representation of that token on chain B, automatically you burn that token here and you mint the token there. So literally you have infinite liquidity moving across the chains. You don't have to wait for the liquidity from whatever token you are transferring, let's say on chain A, you don't have to wait for the liquidity on chain B, right? So that's the unified bridge. That's why we call like unified liquidity. And then the fast interop is basically which we are working for. Hopefully by Q1, Q2, we'll be able to have like a 2 to 3 second fast interop where let's say you are on chain A and you want to buy an NFT on chain B, you simply do one single transaction. In 2 to 5 seconds, your transactions goes through. So for all technical people here, like think about it. Like once this problem is solved, now you can have your own chain, dedicated capacity, millions of transactions per day, and your smart contracts on your chain can seamlessly interop or compose with some smart contract on other side. Like let's say, I mean, we want to do atomic composability also later on, where you can probably, like, you have money on one chain, you take a flash loan on other chain, do your trade, and your money comes back on this chain without you realizing what is happening in the background. That is what happens today for the Web 2 internet, which is the internet of information. We want to achieve that for internet of value. Now, ag layer ecosystem, what we are building, like, it's still like our ag layer, like the actual version, like the first version that I would say is still about to go live. It's like a point one version that we have on Ethereum. Now, in this, probably by end of December or early Q1, very early Q1, in fact, it should undock from Ethereum. Right now, the ag layer is built on Ethereum. So that's why it's costly. It will undock from Ethereum. And then from there, like, people will be able to connect into the ag layer with very, very low cost. And other interesting thing that we are going to do is, it will also be available for multiple different stacks. So you don't have to build on Polygon CDK. You could be building on OP stack. You could be building on Arbitrum Orbit. And hopefully we'll be able to add more and more and more stacks onto this, like maybe even Starknet stack, Avalanche stack, whatever stack you want to choose to build your chain, you'll be able to build your chain and still connect into this aggregated liquidity of ag layer. And yeah, like, if we are able to reach that stage, we truly believe that then we'll be able to reach a place where you can have an average user can have an interface where they don't know what is happening in the background. They just hold USD, INR, whatever that amount is. If you want to check out that experience, it's still early days, like, because a lot of parts are built for the end users, point of view. But check out the experience from Octo wallet, from from the CoinDCX. Some of the people from the CoinDCX team are doing. See the experience on that. Like, you can have whatever money you have on whatever chain, and you say that I want to buy this. Like, they showed me a few experiences with buying, let's say, meme coin on Base, or you have money on Polygon, you can buy meme coin on Solana, or whatever, like NFT you want to buy on some other chain, you can do. And you will realize that this is actually the end game user experience of Web3, eventually, as it reaches there. So what is the purpose of, like, how do we prepare Web3 for internet scale? Like, it needs to have practically infinite TPS. So we at ag layer, we don't say, like, we have 5,000 TPS, 10,000 TPS, 20,000 TPS. We are striving for infinite TPS. Like, I feel that in 2 years from now, when we have, like, enough number of chains, like, say 10,000 chains, each of them can do 1,000 transactions, we would already reach like 10 million TPS. So TPS is not even a matrix to look for. And then the most important thing is unified liquidity, unified state, unified users. That means, like, for end users, they don't know that there are 100 chains behind. They just know one single chain. They have a wallet and they are interacting the way you interact with internet today. That's the goal of ag layer. I already talked through most of these benefits also. Let me see, like, the chain abstraction is actually a part of it. Automatically you receive that, native tokens. Another, like, for technical people, again, another benefit is that, there's this thing called bridge and call. Like, the technology where we do is, like, let's say you are launching a particular chain and your token is on that chain, your like native token of your chain. If any one single chain is connected to a service, let's say Polygon POS is connected to Binance and Coinbase and all that, you can allow your users to withdraw to your chain directly. So Binance, because people will withdraw from Binance to Polygon POS, and you have this functionality called bridge and call. You immediately bridge that asset and call into your chain, the chain that you are building, right? So that becomes a very big problem when you are an entrepreneur and you are starting a business, like a particular chain or a particular application, because these are app chains only. That on-ramps are a very big problem. Your exchange connections are very big problem. With ag layer, it can provide you all those functionalities right out of the box. Because if one single chain is connected to, let's say, MoonPay or Transact for on-ramp service, all the chains are connected to the Transact service, because people can on-ramp and bridge and call, the asset moves immediately to your asset, your chain. So, so these are like this thing. One another very important part of ag layer is ag layer doesn't seek rent. Like there is no sequencer revenue that you need to share. There is no profit sharing, nothing. And you use ag layer as a service. You just, like when you are submitting, in fact, I would say that you save money using ag layer. Like let's say you are launching a chain, app chain, you have to submit your proof to Ethereum and you are paying the gas fees on Ethereum for data and the computation costs. That actually reduces by a factor of, I would say, easily by 2 orders of magnitude, by 100x. Because now you don't submit the proof to Ethereum, you just submit to ag layer. Ag layer just trustlessly, because these are ZK proofs, combines all these ZK proofs and puts it on Ethereum. So your cost of submitting the proof to Ethereum gets amortized across hundreds or thousands of chains. So essentially you save money by using ag layer instead of paying money. And how ag layer makes money is basically because we are doing the same thing at scale. Like if, let's say, there are 1,000 chains, everybody was paying, $50 for those transactions, then essentially everybody together is paying like around 500,000 transactions, right? 500,000 for the gas fees to put the proofs on Ethereum, whereas ag layer will be able to do it at, let's say, $50,000 or even less than that, and ag layer will be able to make a margin over there. And so this is the part, like originally I showed you with aggregation, like the fragmentation, unified liquidity across chains, and unlimited scalability. And this is the other part where, like, the same thing that we saw with the narrow waist of internet. Like once ag layer comes, you can imagine, like, you have different kind of applications, games, dexes, NFTs, everything, and in between, below that, there can be any chain, like whether it's Newton or OKX's X layer, Polygon's chain, whatever it is, all of that can be done. So, so essentially, at the end, I want to say that the mission of Polygon, as I'm going to repeat this part, is not to build, or was never to build actually to build one single chain. That, okay, this has this much TPS and we will have a lot of liquidity, and eventually it dies off. The goal of Polygon is to build something or the components of this new trustless internet. And I want to be like in 10 years from now, when I'm still working on Polygon, and then Polygon still exists as a significant part of this new trustless internet that is being created. And that's the mission. And we keep taking these bets, like, taking this bet that when Polygon at 2022 was at the peak of like this blockchain adoption and all that time moving into this was a very hard decision. But we thought to ourselves, I said to myself multiple times, even now I say that anyways, it will be a good story. Like whether Polygon succeeds in making what we want it to be, or it fails completely, it will be a good story to tell. So I hope that, with this kind of architecture, as also I said that this kind of architecture, whether it's Polygon or somebody else, I can, with extremely high amount of precision, I can bet you that this kind of architecture will end up succeeding at the end of like maybe 5, 6, 7 years. I don't know how much time it's going to take, but something like this will succeed. Whether Polygon builds it or somebody else builds it, nobody can predict. That's only can be seen in future. That's all from my side. Thank you, everyone.